3 o'clock. Hello, Raven.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone po. We'll start po in 1 second. Raven will start already. Hello, Raven. Yes. Okay. APCU Chairman Secretary Lambino. Good afternoon to everyone. We'll start na po.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh, yes po. APCO Chairman Secretary Lambino, APCO President Jeffrey Nang, APCO members and officials, to our distinguished resource speakers, to our media friends who are present, to our local and foreign friends and colleagues, welcome to the APCO Forum with APPCU Laureates, with the theme Philippine-China Relation, Confucius Institutes, and the Belt and Road Initiative as platforms for cultural diplomacy. Welcome. My name is Ana Malindoguy. I'm an APCO member and I will serve as the moderator of this forum. But before we move on to the first part of our program, which let me just mention quickly the forum guidelines so that everyone will know how the forum will be run and for us to have a very efficient and orderly conduct of the forum. The first thing is all participants will be muted except for the speakers and the moderator. Only the moderator and the APCO secretariat will be allowed to unmute participants. The second one is participants may type their questions and comments via the Zoom chat box. Please state your name and your organization. You may also choose to remain anonymous if that's your preference. The third one is those interested to have copies of the resource person's speaker's presentation, kindly signify your interest via the Zoom chat box as well. We will provide copies after the APCO forum. And the last one is the host reserves the right to remove participants who send rude or inappropriate questions or messages. Thank you for your attention. Now let's move on to the first part of our program, which is an invocation by Mr. Sexto Benedicto, APCO Vice Chairperson or Vice Chair.
Good day, everyone. To exalt and acknowledge you. Today, another day of us in the midst of enhanced community. Saddened by the fact that our anticipated opportunity to appreciate life instruments of promoting diplomacy, awareness, institution which shares for new ideas, initiatives, an ideal situation brought by the pandemic. Prestigious APPCU awardees. Topics. They discuss the beneficial learnings and experience. Those are willing to make this a productive and insightful, help us to engage in meaningful discussion as we enjoy the comfort of our own places. Every word that we will hear, we ask you to promote excellent effect. Support our dialogues, proposals, systems, and ventures so that we may attend you, our Lord, and Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Sir Noy. Now, the next part of our program is the opening remarks by APCO Chairman, Secretary Raul Lambino. Sir?
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, I'd like to welcome all participants and our resource speakers who will be properly introduced later to this 13th monthly forum on China's Belt and Road Initiative organized by the Association for Philippines-China Understanding. It wasn't abundantly clear what benefits the Philippines would assuredly have when Chinese President Xi Jinping launched the BRI in Kazakhstan in September 2013 and in Indonesia 1 month later. True, it is a massive infrastructure project on a global scale, but it would mostly stretch from East Asia to Central Asia to the eastern reaches of Europe, the road reminiscent of China's ancient Silk Road that prospered during the time of the Han Dynasty from 2006 BC to 220 AD. The ancient road provided some arteries, or the main arteries of trade and culture that prospered between Eastern and Western markets. Hence, it is often referred to as one of the first waves of globalization, with Central Asia as its epicenter. China's Belt and Road is an attempt to revive these ancient interconnections. President Xi's grand plan, though, is two-pronged. One, the Overland Silk Road Economic Belt, the other, the Maritime Silk Road, and the two were collectively known initially as the One Belt, One Road Initiative. The stated objectives are mesmerizing to say the least. It is, and I quote, to construct a unified large market and make full use of both international and domestic markets. Though cultural exchange and integration as one of the main aspects of the BRI. Conceivably, this would result in the enhancement of mutual understanding and trust of member nations and the subsequent innovative pattern of capital inflows, talent pools, and technology databases. As the vision of President Xi Jinping crystallized, it became clear how the Philippines, with its chronic infrastructure gap that made it a laggard in infrastructure development in the region, would stand to benefit from China's initiative. Today's forum explores how the main pillars of the BRI have made an impact on the Duterte administration centerpiece and game-changing Build, Build, Build infrastructure program. Under President Duterte, the Philippines has pivoted towards a more independent foreign policy, away from the United States, closer to China and Russia, resulting in several bilateral agreements. In 2016, after signing on in the 2015 as a founding member of the Chinese-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or EIIB, which serves as the funding source for the BRI, the Philippines and China sealed $24 billion worth of deals and 13 government-to-government agreements. In 2018, the Philippines officially announced its cooperation with the BRI by formalizing the deal under a memorandum of understanding. According to one analyst, the Chinese government's assistance in building and developing potential infrastructure projects in the country has paved the way for new dams, bridges, and railways. These are within the purview of the BRI as a platform for further enhancing regional economic integration and connectivity. In the words of Oxford historian Peter Frankopan, the BRI can be understood not as a single network of actual roads, but one with multiple links, some to do with trade and investment, some with infrastructure expansion, some to do with more abstract connections. The BRI connects nations, peoples, and cultures in ways that are new and innovative. As President Xi himself has said, such a network would break the bottleneck in Asian connectivity. But the geopolitical realities in the ASEAN region, being what they are now, questions arise as to what challenges China and the Philippines could face in foreseeable future, and as the Philippines enters the crucial election year next year. More significant is the question of what opportunities await them and what this would enhance bilateral cooperation and people-to-people exchanges. Let us share the answers from the panel of experts in today's forum. One is our awardee, who's been with the PCCI. He's a good friend, a mentor, Dr. Francis Chua. And the other is one in charge of the Confucius Institute, one that could really help us understand what benefit could this BRI do for the country today. So without much ado, let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Lambino, for that very enlightening opening remarks. But before we go on to the next part of our program, which is basically the introduction of our resource speaker, we want to get to know more, I think, what is about APPCU and what is it all about. So we prepared an audiovisual presentation about it. So let us call on Raven to give us and to play the short video. Raven?
Among countries in Southeast Asia, the Philippines is geographically one of the closest, if not the closest, to China.
Historically, the socio-cultural relations between Filipinos and Chinese can be traced back to ancient times. The first groups of people engaged with by locals and native inhabitants of pre-colonial Philippines were the Chinese. Filipinos and Chinese began trading as far back as the 7th century. We have our history to attest that as far back as the Tang Dynasty, long before the discovery of the Philippines by Magellan, China and the Philippines already had relatively close relations and material and cultural exchanges.
Indeed, the Chinese had traded amicably along the Philippine coasts for several centuries before the Europeans arrived in the archipelago. Even as early as 1417, diplomatic relations had already been established between China and the Philippines. Sultan Paduka Pahala, the King of Sulu, was probably the first Filipino diplomat when he sailed from the Philippines to China in 1417. Undeniably, the memo of the past tells us that bilateral relations between China and the Philippines already existed as far back as before the 10th century, and that the Chinese have not only traded amicably along the Philippine coasts, but had established friendly people-to-people relations and enjoyed time-honored friendship and cooperation for several centuries even before the Europeans arrived. However, it was not until the 9th of June 1975 that the official diplomatic ties between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of the Philippines was established. The 9th of June of every year has also been decreed through Proclamation 148 of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo as the Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day, commemorating the day that diplomatic relations were established between the Philippines and China.
Philippines-China relations are important. When I became president, relations between the Philippines and China entered a golden age. The continuing friendship between our two peoples enhances the mutually beneficial relations between our two countries and contributes to peace and harmony in the Asia-Pacific region. That is the significance of my presidential proclamation declaring June 9 of every year as Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. Under President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, bilateral ties between the Philippines and China have reached new heights. The relationship between the Philippines and China is important. One major reason is geography. The Philippines and China are located within each other's backyard, so to speak. So good relations between neighbors is always a priority. A second major reason is that China is involved not only in bilateral dealings but also collectively, such as through the ASEAN. A third reason is that China's economy remains the most dynamic and fastest growing among the major nations, and soon it may become the world's largest economy. A fourth factor is that domestically, the Philippines has a vibrant Filipino-Chinese community for whom business dealings with China are natural. A fifth factor is that Infrastructure will continue to be important for the Philippines in the coming years, and there is no country in the world that matches China's recent track record and capability in this area.
One of the instrumental and pivotal factors that help in the establishment and strengthening of the official diplomatic ties between the Philippines and China is people-to-people relations. The Association for Philippines-China Understanding, or APCU, a non-government organization, NGO, based in the Philippines, was already active in promoting people-to-people relations between the two countries.
The Association for Philippines-China Understanding is a private association promoting friendship between the Philippines and China. I am Chair Emeritus of APCU, which means Honorary Chair. During APCU's formative years, I helped formalize and register it with the Securities and Exchange Commission. The first chairman of APCU was Alejandro Roses, who was Secretary of Education of my father, the late President Diosdado Macapagal. In the early 1970s, when I heard that Chairman Roses was organizing a trip to China at that time, I asked him if I could go along. He invited me to join APCU. APCU was informally organized after China sent aid to Central Luzon flood victims in July 1972, and it was registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission in 1974. APCU helped in the establishment of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and China in the sense that it was an advocacy group. As an organization, APCU helps facilitate and strengthen Philippines-China relations by promoting non-government exchanges. Non-government exchanges is a key to Philippines-China relations. At the end of the day, the government is the body of the country, but the people are its heart. Thus, fostering exchanges at the people level, like what APCU does, as opposed to the government level, is the natural way to create ties between nations.
APCU is currently under the leadership of Chairman and Secretary Raul L. Lambino and its President Jeffrey Nam. APCU as of now has regional chapters in Baguio, Cebu, Davao, Angeles City, and Pangasinan.
Over the years, far from the knowledge of many, APCU has silently worked on behalf of the two countries through the efforts and contributions of individuals and organizations from the ground and the upper echelons of Philippine society in espousing a mutual understanding between the Philippines and China.
The association is very active in the conduct of the APCU Forum, which is a platform for a constructive conversation on current bilateral issues among policy and thought leaders, experts, and stakeholders to foster friendship, understanding, and cooperation. The association has also facilitated cultural, academic, and visit exchanges, economic trade cooperation, and partnership.
We, at the Association for Philippine-China Understanding, or APCU, believe that we have good enough reasons to acknowledge the opportunities that such historical roots open to us Filipinos. It is precisely in this light that APCU endeavors to foster and strengthen the ties between these two nations and two peoples, Filipinos and Chinese. As it is from the birth of APCU, it is in the best interest of both countries that the Association for Philippine-China Understanding will continue to aspire and carry out its vision and mission. Truly, in fulfilling the mission of APCU, it is my honor to present to you one of the initiatives of the association, together with the Chinese Embassy, this novel and newly launched award-giving body, the Award for Promoting Philippines-China Understanding, APCU. I see this initiative as rather opportune in recognizing the industry and contributions made both by renowned and ordinary Filipinos in reinforcing relations between the two countries. Even in this simple yet sincere gestures, we hope to encourage more of our fellow citizens and instill in them a renewed appreciation of our Filipino-Chinese ties.
The award for promoting Philippines-China understanding is expected to help promote further the friendship between our two peoples. My wish for APPCU 2021 is that it will encourage the further work to constantly develop bilateral friendly cooperation, accelerate post-pandemic economic recovery, and inject new vitality into Philippines-China friendship.
APPCU is an annual undertaking, and each year there will be 10 laureates or awardees. Those who are eligible for awards are Filipino citizens who have committed themselves to the improvement and advancement of Philippines-China bilateral relations using their fields of disciplines and area of expertise, such as public service, media journalism, trade and commerce, and arts and culture and sciences. APPCU has 3 award categories. These are 1. Hall of Famer. Number 2. Outstanding Extraordinary. Number 3. Significant Major Contribution. APPCU nominees undergo 3 rounds of selection process, namely preliminary or the elimination round, second round of judging, and the third and final round. The 10 awardees for 2021 will be given recognition in a formal ceremony on August 6, 2021.
I look forward to more productive years ahead of the award for promoting Philippines-China understanding. Thank you.
As neighbors facing each other across the sea, despite differences, China and the Philippines boast geographically proximity, culture affinity, and a long history of friendly people-to-people exchanges. This friendship between the two peoples needs to carry on, move forward, and be passed down to the present and succeeding generations.
Thank you, Raven, for that short video presentation just for our audience to have an appreciation of what is APPCU. So now the most awaited part of our program is the presentation or talk of our resource speakers. So for the introduction of our resource speakers, we also prepared an audiovisual presentation about them. So Raven, may I ask you again to play our introduction to our first resource speaker. Raven? By the way, since Raven is still actually manipulating the computer here, okay, sige.
Hall of Fame awardee of APPCU this 2021 is no other than Ambassador Francis Chua. Ambassador Chua is the Chairman and Emeritus of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or PCCI. He is also the Honorary President of the Federation of the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Inc., or FFCCCII. He founded the International Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines in 2015 and served as its first president. In the same year, he was elected as Chairman Emeritus of the Employers Federation of the Philippines, or ECOP. In 2015, he was appointed as Vice Chairman of the Silk Road International Chamber of Commerce. In 2016, he established the Philippine Silk Road International Chamber of Commerce as founding chairman. Among his remarkable contributions include introduced Chinese trucks and buses to the Philippines since 1983. He signed a memorandum of cooperation with Chinese counterparts for launching the first international communications satellite for the Philippines in 1993. In 1997, he was instrumental in the Philippines' first international communications and broadcasting satellite, which was successfully launched by the Chinese Long March 3 rocket in Zhejiang, China. Ambassador Chua is also known for his achievements in solving anti-Chinese incidents that suppressed the rampant kidnapping cases of Chinese nationals that paved the way for him to become the commissioner of the Anti-Organized Crime Committee by then President Arroyo. Paved way for the removal of Chinese nationals from the list of restricted aliens, but also facilitated the granting of permanent residency to 50 Chinese nationals each year in the Philippines. Furthermore, Ambassador Chua helped FFCCCII obtain the rights to host the 10th World Chinese Entrepreneurs Conference and served as chairman of the organizing committee. The conference was successfully held in November 2009 and was highly praised by more than 3,000 Chinese businessmen who participated in the conference from various parts of the world. He also collaborated with the Fujian Normal University to establish the Philippine Institute of Chinese Language and Culture and was its first dean. He also helped the University of the Philippines and Angeles University establish Confucius Institutes. Ambassador Francis Chua believed that the Belt Road Initiatives, or BRI, is the sum of China's connections with the rest of the world and is the Chinese way of promoting trade, cooperation, and bilateral relations. He is more than willing to cooperate with China to tell our Filipino brothers the good story of China, their efforts on peace, and how China is a country that cares for its people and the whole of mankind.
Thank you, Raven, for that short video as introduction to our first resource speaker, which is Ambassador Francis Chua. Earlier, a few hours ago, Ambassador Chua actually sent a message to us that there was something that came up and he cannot attend personally to this forum, but what he did actually is he recorded his speech or his talk and sent it to us. So we will play his presentation for today. Something came up that I think he needs his attention right away. So yes, but he has his presentation, okay, or his speech. Raven, is it okay if you play as well, please? By the way, the APPCU award ceremony was postponed because in the audiovisual presentation earlier, it was said that it's August 6th, but it was postponed.
His Excellency Ambassador Wang Xilian of the People's Republic of China, Attorney Raul Lambino, APCU Chairman, Mr. Jeffrey Nang, APCU President, fellow distinguished awardees, Dr. Doles Nepomuceno, Director of Confucius Institute of UP Diliman, board members of APCU, our esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. A present good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to this special online forum. It is my honor to be an awardee of the first Hall of Fame Award of Promoting Philippine-China Understanding. Your recognition and encouragement will surely inspire me to do more to forge understanding between Philippines and China. Relations between the Philippines and China, which span several centuries, have been predominantly warm and cordial. However, in recent years, both countries have experienced issues that have resulted in cooling off, hitting a low point since the establishment of the diplomatic relations in June 1975. Philippine-China relations have lately been dominated by the territorial disputes over South China Sea. It started during the naval standoff over the Scarborough Shoal in April 2012. Back then, Philippines was following the advice of USA to withdraw from Scarborough Shoal. It was not true that China forcefully broke off the Filipino fishermen. In fact, Filipinos and Chinese have a lot in common, and many Filipinos are of Chinese descent. The Chinese are part of our DNA already. We both share a similar culture, such as close family ties and high regards for elders. Many of our cuisines and food preparation are similar as well. Being in the same geographical area in Asia, we treasure this kind of close historical relationship. As Chinese Filipino, it is our mission and obligation to promote friendship and enhance mutual trust between the two people. Today, media and public opinion play an important role in promoting this relationship. Media exchange can be used to prevent political issues from spilling over. The Chinese government can call on the state-controlled media, while the Philippine government can encourage its free press to emphasize the positive aspect of the bilateral relations. Hopefully, this can counterbalance hostile public perceptions and prevent public tensions from heating up. Ultimately, an enlightened and informed nation, rather than an antagonistic aroused public, can create a more cordial atmosphere. It is our responsibility to explain the truth to the public. The so-called arbitration court ruling that favored the Philippines in the South China Sea controversy does not acquire jurisdiction on the issue. There was no arbitration if one of the parties involved did not subject itself to an arbitration. President Duterte is correct when he says the ruling is not enforceable, as China did not subject itself to this arbitration. It is sad that we can expect this debate to drag on since it is an easy target for media to sensationalize. We should instead encourage media to report on China delivering more than 10 million vaccine doses to the Philippines and committed to deliver more than 26 million doses this year. This is unprecedented and no other country has offered this level of support. There has also emphasized the numerous donations that China has given to the Philippines, not just big items like roads, bridges, rail projects, but tons of PPEs, COVID testing machines, and even computers and school supplies. The relationship between nations lies in the closeness and understanding of the people. Enhancing non-governmental exchange will help resolve existing disputes between China and the Philippines. Let us look at our difference as an opportunity to enrich our society and our Asian continent as a whole. Today, the global enemy we all face is the COVID-19 virus. To solve any problem, we need to attack it at its source. We should work together to advocate both China and USA to open up their virus research laboratories. If they haven't yet, they should be responsible enough to allow international health experts to investigate on the origin of this COVID-19 virus. The aim is not to find fault, but to be able to find the antidote in the shortest time. This pandemic should not be politicized. It is our obligation to insist the big nations to open up for inspections to show they have nothing to hide. That they are responsible as global power, we have to seriously insist on this for the sake of humanity. We should not fail humanity. Thank you very much. Once again, my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers for this wonderful opportunity and recognition. And congratulations to my co-awardee. Wishing everyone good health and to stay safe.
Okay, thank you, um, Raven. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ambassador Chua. Even if he is not here, we would like to express our thanks to him um, for that encouraging speech. But now let's move on to the next part of our program, which is the presentation of our next speaker. But before we give the floor to our next speaker, we would like as well to introduce her through an AVP presentation. Raven?
A true academician and esteemed public intellectual, Dr. Lourdes Tanueco Nepomuceno is a Filipino with Chinese ancestry who takes pride in her bicultural roots. Backed by her robust academic training and relevant professional, corporate, and international experience in both private and public sectors, Dr. Nepomuceno is a visionary in her own right. In an era where China is no longer viewed as another player, but a formidable force to reckon with in globalization, Dr. Nepomuceno employs her knowledge and passion in aiding communities to bridge major socio-cultural gaps through language and communication arts. In 2009, beginning with her hometown of Angeles, Pampanga, Dr. Nepomuceno co-established the Confucius Institute at the Angeles University Foundation. Among others, the institute promotes an understanding and appreciation of Chinese culture and the teaching of the Mandarin language. In 2015, Dr. Nepomuceno was welcomed by the University of the Philippines Diliman to lead the establishment of the Confucius Institute. Over the years, Dr. Nepomuceno has built up many ties with government entities, city colleges, and universities, as well as the private sector, to the extent that the Confucius Institute at the University of the Philippines Diliman has now the broadest outreach in Mandarin lessons. In both setups, Dr. Nepomuceno holds the distinction of being the pioneer Filipino director. It is also noteworthy that her commitment to education in general and the advocacy of the appreciation of the Chinese language and culture have also benefited Philippine society. Specifically, Dr. Nepomuceno initiated and advanced the inclusion of the Mandarin language in the K-12 curriculum of the Department of Education as a special program in foreign language. The program greatly facilitates the diversification of the skill sets of Filipinos that provides them headway in employment and/or overall personal development.
Thank you, Raven. So, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to welcome Dr. Lourdes Tanueco Nepomuceno for her presentation. Ma'am, are you ready?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon po.
Si Wang Xilian, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China. APCO officials and members headed by Secretary Limbino and President and Mr. Jeffrey Nang. APCO awardee Ambassador Francis Chua. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Hardly a week goes by without coverage in the Philippine media of some negative aspect of China-Philippines bilateral and trade relations. There is also a growing sense of panic and alarmism about the rise of China, which have increased geopolitical tension. Personally speaking, engaging with China is of great importance, specifically for higher education. There are other prospects for China-Philippine relations beyond the territorial disputes issues, such as cultural exchange, tourism promotion, bilateral trade, sports exchange. Therefore, this should not dissuade our engagement with China if we value the Philippine-China deep-rooted ties. There is no need for us to feel and look soft-fraught. As China's educational diplomacy platforms, Confucius Institutes engage Filipinos from all walks of life to experience traditional and contemporary China and witness the panoramic view of China. Confucius Institutes are university-based institutions that are responsible for teaching a new generation of Filipino students, training a new generation of public servants and policy thinkers to attain fluency in Chinese language and Chinese culture through a variety of ways. In recent years, the Confucius Institutes in Western countries have become a controversial topic globally. Some Confucius Institutes in the Western countries were closed, with claims of espionage, controlled by the Chinese government, and lack of academic freedom. These issues play themselves out in the media around the world with constant and occasionally with exaggerated or even false narratives, several of which turned out to be completely unjustified. The backlash against Confucius Institutes closing in the Western countries has prompted former Chief Justice Carpio to say that until China recognizes the ruling Confucius Institutes in the Philippines, should not be allowed to operate. China has Confucius Institute at the University of the Philippines and Ateneo de Manila University and can propagate their historical falsehood about Mayan Daslan. This issue died down. There was no evidence of the use of espionage, and were no signs of curbing academic freedom in the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and Ateneo de Manila University. Are Confucius Institutes in the Philippines proving to be successful at promoting educational diplomacy? Yes. In 2006, a major push in strengthening Philippine-China relations came into being with the establishment of Confucius Institute at the Ateneo de Manila University, followed by Bulacan State University, Angeles University, and University of the Philippines. These Confucius Institutes in the Philippines are committed to strengthen a sense of solidarity and goodwill as a single nation that has contributed to both countries' cultural treasures, boost economic and cultural partnerships, and bolster people-to-people exchanges, and to firm up mutual understanding of common development and prosperity. For your information, CIs in the Philippines are thriving. In fact, the Mariano Marcos State University and the Chinese Consulate of Lawag are planning to put up the 6th Confucius Institute. In 2010, as a requirement, I was able to attend the executive workshop for Confucius Institute for Foreign Directors in Renmin University, Beijing. Let me focus on Confucius Institute at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, since I am the current and the pioneer Filipino director. The Confucius Institute at UP Diliman is the 476th Confucius Institute worldwide. 16th Confucius Institute established by Xiamen University as a partner, and the 4th Confucius Institute in the Philippines. Confucius Institute in UP is a collaborative educational and service partnership between the UP, Xiamen University, and Confucius Institute headquarters. The collaboration is based on shared values and visions with regard to Chinese education and cultural understanding. Our ultimate goal is to spark awareness of the rapid pace of contemporary developments in China, of China in relations to the Philippines, and of China and the world through high-level academic programs between the University of the Philippines and Xiamen University. Time flies indeed with the Confucius Institute in UP, almost 6 years. There was a long gestation period for UP. The proposal to put up UP, Confucius Institute, has been brought up with the Board of Regents as early as 2005 and met favorable responses, but there were many reasons for the delay. One of which is the Department of Linguistics, Islam, the establishment of Confucius in UP, saying that it poses a threat to the university's academic freedom. Upon my appointment as the first Filipino director of Confucius Institute in UP, I thought of innovative ideas to jumpstart the institutional framework I had in mind, and the rest is history. As an institute of the country's national university, the UP Diliman Confucius Institute implement programs that make them more academic and more integrative using the multi-sectoral approach: civil society, government, and business. In the promotion of Chinese language and culture, cultivating Filipino teachers to learn culturally responsive pedagogy in the teaching of Chinese language, fostering civil discourse intended to produce a research output on contemporary China, and encouraging the free exchange of ideas and perspectives between the Filipino and Chinese. In President Rodrigo Duterte's words, I commend the crucial role of Confucius Institute at the University of the Philippines in the promotion of greater understanding and cooperation between the Philippines and China through language and culture. Your initiatives towards fostering collaboration in the areas of governance, business, tourism, and education, among others, in an academic setting are truly noteworthy. I hope that the Confucius Institute at the University of the Philippines will be more actively involved in sharing important knowledge that will guide policies promoting greater peace and security in the region. These are some of the congratulatory messages by President Duterte, Secretary Locsin, and Commissioner Morente. These are our partners. If you see the logos, we are actually doing our work with a multi-sectoral part of the society. It is not only, we are not focusing only on the students per se, but the different government agencies, public and private, and for the students, we focus on the grassroots. We are a dynamic overseas cultural ambassador that has the broadest outreach in terms of Mandarin lessons and cultural people-to-people exchanges, because we are educating a new generation of Filipino students as well as public servants and policy thinkers. Working within a partnership framework provides Confucius Institute at UP with multiple benefits. Our partnerships increase influence, flexibility, and options. Our partnerships leads to better public services through improved operational efficiency. Our partnerships and networks help ensure the sustainability of CI's initiatives and other funded activities. Bringing together partners from different sectors is challenging. Each sector has different sets of criteria, namely objectives and working styles. Their diversity is what makes our partnerships with them attractive. For instance, each brings something new to the mix, their own strengths and weaknesses, resources and capabilities. This diversity means that it takes time for partnerships to grow and bring about mutual understanding for partners to learn to speak a common language and to agree what the partnership project expects to accomplish. Our first partner is the League of Cities of the Philippines. The League of Cities of the Philippines consists of 146 city colleges and universities subsidized by the city mayors. Our reason for starting with the grassroots is that we serve to advocate policies and continuing autonomy, promoting capacity building and best practice sharing, and strengthening international and external linkages to lift the nation out of poverty. And these are the grassroots, the students in the grassroots. One of our city college, city university, is the University of Makati. Makati Mayor and President of the University of Makati, Abi Binay, recognized Confucius Institute in appreciation of our partnership to help realize UMAC's mandate for educational excellence and student employability. Apparently, our students from UMAC were all employed in big companies because of their Mandarin proficiency. UP Integrated School is the laboratory school of UP College of Education. We are trying to promote language culture learning from K to 12. And this will facilitate dialogues and exchange, promote Philippines and China relations when they grow up. Our next partner is the Department of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Service Institute. As DFA Secretary Locsin once said, it pleased me that since the signing of Memorandum of Understanding between Confucius Institute and DFA, Foreign Service Institute in 2017, CIUPD has worked closely with the department not only in cultivating Mandarin language skills of DFA officials and personnel, but also enhancing appreciation of Chinese culture and tradition. The department is proud of its officers and staff who have undergone CIUPD Mandarin language course and expresses its appreciation for its contribution to stronger ties between Philippines and China through Mandarin language studies. We held our 3 graduation ceremonies. This program with the Department of Foreign Affairs, FSI, is intended for Department of Affairs, Foreign Affairs personnel and its agencies with service attaches due for assignment to Beijing, Guangzhou, Chongqing, Shanghai, and Xiamen. In fact, some of our students are now deployed at the Xiamen consulate. Next is the Bureau of Immigration. The Bureau of Immigration, as Commissioner Jaime Morente's words said, CIUP offer Mandarin language course and training the frontline immigration officers to enhance their communication skills with respect to conducting arrival and departure formalities to Chinese passengers. This will further equip them to understand, to convey, and to converse with Chinese visiting the Philippines. This program will aid the immigration officers not only with usual conduct of formalities at the ports of entry and exit, but also with the intensified visa upon arrival. Partnerships offer multiple resources and perspectives that can be drawn not only in our efforts to Chinese language teaching. As a university professor of UP, I was invited to be one of the resource speakers during the Bureau of Immigration 2018 strategic planning with the team, Secured Borders and Efficient Service. I was with other resource speakers with the embassies of the United States, Japan, and other foreign embassies. Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we are now in the business sector. Such cooperation will serve to strengthen the economic and cultural ties between China and the Philippines and help promote the competitiveness of Filipino businessmen and entrepreneurs. Then we are now in these are the so-called government-controlled ecozones institutions. One of them is the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority. Now, pre-pandemic, we conducted classes for their tour guides and port personnel, which allowed them to effectively communicate with the tens of thousands of Chinese touring, visiting Subic and Clark, and brought about the influx of 20 cruise ship liners now calling on the port of Subic. In 2018, we signed a tripartite memorandum of agreement with Clark Development Corporation, with Subic and Mabalacat City Colleges. Now, this, according to the CDC president, he said that our partnership with your institute has allowed the workforce of Clark Development Corporation to broaden their awareness of Chinese values and tradition. This bolstered cooperation with our stakeholders, the locators, and fostered better services to our foreign partners through efficient communication. And the support of our institute enables us to achieve our tourism and business-related pursuits. For your information, there are more than 1,000 locators inside Clark. And there are more than 46 locators or companies, multinational companies from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and China. Then we helped. We assisted DOST, and we were actively involved during the 14th Philippine-China Joint Commission meeting on science and technology. We serve as a venue to discuss possible areas and modes of collaboration with the Chinese counterparts. So we facilitated the meeting there. And then we went to Malacanang. Okay. We trained the PCOO personnel, and our briefing was held in the Brew Room of Malacanang, as you can see in the photos. And according to PCOO Executive of Secretary Andanar, language is the first part in establishing relations with other people, countries, and understanding their culture. It is very important for us to learn at least the basic Mandarin for us to fully understand our counterparts in China. So after their training, they were dispatched to Beijing to attend a class. And they were happy because they were able to initially converse with their counterparts in Beijing. This is a program of PCOO, Wow China. And we were tasked to facilitate the Hello Mandarin broadcasting program. But this show hit the Philippine media. Some politicians denounce the airing of Wow China radio show is a disrespect to Manila's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Another politician found nothing wrong about appreciating the rich culture of our Asian neighbors. But he said the program on government radio came across as unpleasant to many Filipinos. So we conduct a weekend Mandarin classes on air with Wow China, which is on Radio Pilipinas, and it is a part of Philippine Broadcast Service under the supervision of the Presidential Communications Operations Office. Aside from language, we also showcase the traditional and contemporary culture of China in the National Capital Region and in different regions. As you can see in the photos, I'll just flash this. Okay, so it was a, showcasing the deep-rooted cultural ties of Philippines and China. And then, this is another way of showing students what China is all about, the panoramic view of China. In 2018, I assisted the China Youth Tour in Beijing and Miao Village in Guizhou. These students were from the University of the Philippines, Ateneo de Davao University, University of San Carlos, and Philippine Normal University. So we had a week-long immersion program hosted by the Embassy of China. And they were all amazed and changed their perspective on what China is all about. We also welcome media in our Confucius Institute. Every now and then, China Daily, South China Morning Post sent me an email, calls me for an interview, and we welcome all the media because we want to tell China's stories well. We also have a close collaboration with the Chinese embassy, particularly cultural counselor, and we work closely with them to strengthen our deep-rooted ties. And then we also thought of bolstering our academic partnership with Xiamen University, and we hope that we deliver truly groundbreaking results. So I was invited to speak to PhD students at Xiamen University regarding mapping Philippines of higher education's readiness in integrating ASEAN community. Then we visited the Xiamen University Medical College, wherein we invited them to conduct traditional Chinese medicine lectures in the Philippines to our partners in different schools and different government agencies. Then we invited the Xiamen University Art Troupe. And then for the first time, this is a groundbreaking project. The first China study tour of the University of the Philippines Clark, or the UPDEP Master of Management students. This sparked awareness of the rapid pace of contemporary developments in China. And it enhanced their international marketing subject, wherein it opened eyes for the, how China is multidimensional, and China is not all about territorial disputes. There are more beyond that. Okay, and then again, they invited me to speak about the Belt and Road, the opportunities that we give to Philippine higher education institutions. So this is a mix of foreign students of Xiamen University. Okay, and then I also thought of collaborating with the next one, meetings with other Confucius Institute. I visited them personally because I know that this will be a win-win for both CIs. I visited University of Chicago, University of Maryland, George Washington University, Indonesia, Japan, Singapore, again Indonesia, and Thailand. And we thought of a global joint research programs. Okay. And also I presented a paper at the University of Hawaii in Manoa in 2020. Okay, let me conclude this. What is our CIUPD future plans? We want to raise performance goals. We want shorter innovation cycles, introduce new management technologies, cost-effective projects, research partnerships with other CIs, and we want to bolster the Philippine-China relationships. And we are committed to add new vigor to the great purpose of Chinese language education and remain at the forefront of educational and cultural diplomacy. CIUPD will nurture a deeper bond through a community of like-minded Filipinos and Chinese that will be instrumental in providing a sense of solidarity, especially during these trying times. This prestigious recognition bestowed upon me by APCU is as humbling as it is gratifying. Now, let me give you a throwback. This is how it started. I was also a pioneer director of the Confucius Institute at the University of the Philippines. And this evokes memories because I was the first director, and concurrent the Director of International Affairs for 11 years. I was the one who laid the groundwork on the inclusion of Mandarin in the DepEd special program in foreign languages. As you can see, during the time of Brother Armin, I did this. And then the end result is a MOA signing with the Confucius Institute, wherein they became the lead Confucius Institute to teach Mandarin in DepEd schools. So this brings to an end. Thank you very much. And I hope that you can get in touch with me if you have questions. If you want to know more about our Confucius Institutes, better visit us in Diliman campus at the Balay Kalinaw. And these are my contact information if you need further information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lourdes Tanhueco Nepomuceno, for that very informative and extensive presentation about Confucius Institute, not only in UP Diliman, but in different parts of the world and even here in the Philippines, about its activities, its milestone, and most of all, how it actually facilitates contact between Filipinos and Chinese and different peoples of the world. And that's very, very inspiring presentation. Now we move on to the next part of our program, which is the open forum. You can actually type your questions in the chat box if you have, and then our resource speakers will address that. So I have collected some questions here from before the forum started, because I asked our friends to send questions through email. So for Madam Lu, Dr. Lu,
Yes.
I'll read first the first question in the chat box before the collected questions that I have. The first question in the chat box right now is there a possibility that Confucius Institute be set up in pamantasan ng lungsod ng Valenzuela for Cabanava area? This is from Mr. Richard Magallanes.
Yes, let's make it happen. Just keep in touch with me, get in touch with me, and we will do it in collaboration. Now we are on doing remote work. You can get in touch with me. And since Pamantasan and Valenzuela is one of the League of Cities of the Philippines, 146 city colleges and universities, we can work together, just like how we work with University of Makati. Sure.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, the next question is more about, because earlier you mentioned that the UPD Confucius Institute has quite a unique program.
Yes.
As in comparison with the rest of the Confucius Institute in the Philippines. No? Now, the question is how it is unique. What are the unique features? And is teaching of the Chinese language in UPD more academic? And if yes, can you give us more an idea about this?
Yes. If you see our programs, we do not only focus on the teaching of Chinese language and culture. We focus on researches. And we do not only showcase traditional China, but contemporary China. So we have more integrative and more academic, in a sense that we do not only teach within the four corners of the classroom. We want to expose Filipino students to see China through their eyes.
Okay, fine. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, before I read the question of our APCU President, Jeffrey Nang, I would just want to mention or read the comments of Ma'am Lavinia Arances. She said, like, amazing achievements from CIUPD. Congratulations, Dr. Lu. Congratulations, ma'am. The next question, I think I read first the question of our APCO president. What are other resources and obstacles do you foresee in the implementation of your plans and visions for the Confucius Institute. So this is much more challenges, ma'am, along the way while you implement in terms of resources.
What I foresee, first of all, we do our programs online. It's remote. Before, we do it face-to-face. No, we want to make sure, because face-to-face is entirely different with online. But one obstacle is that some partners want to collaborate with us face-to-face. And I do that once in a while. I travel and I want to make sure that we talk face-to-face. And it's different. Another obstacle is that, UP, University of the Philippines, actually, some are against putting a foreign agency inside the campus. But when they saw what we are doing and our programs, and we are apolitical, they realize how important our center is. So we open doors to a lot of opportunities for our students. In fact, if you are a UP student, UP graduate, UP alumni, etc., our Mandarin classes are for free. And then we work closely with companies. And if they are in need of training, then we do it for them. Translation, we also do it. We work closely with the National Book Board. And we do that. We do a lot of things. Our only obstacle, first of all, is funding. Although we are being funded by the Confucius Institute headquarters, which was rebranded to Chinese International Education, Culture and Education now. It was rebranded due to a lot of controversies in the Western countries. So I think those are the obstacles that I can foresee in the future. And
Yes,
it
ma'am.
also depends on who will head the leadership of UP. If the leadership of UP is okay, then we are okay. So it depends on the officials of UP.
Ma'am, you mentioned, this is much more my follow-up question, no, based on your answer. You mentioned that you need resources, of course, funding, and it comes from the central, or what you call the mother Confucius Institute, which is, I think, based in China. But is the program like, are students paying fee when they enroll in the Confucius Institute, or is it for free? Do they have fee, or? Yes.
That is why we collaborated with the government. So as long as the government agency mandates all these schools, we give free Mandarin lessons to all. Like the League of Cities of the Philippines, because these are subsidized by the city mayors, and they are from grassroots, no? So we want to help them make a difference, alleviate them from poverty. That is why we focus on them. Give them the same privilege, just like some students that go to private school. No?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there's another comment here from Sir June Manrique, and he's saying, like, I'm living here in Las Piñas and I'm often in Mindoro. Plus, help us set up. I think asking for help to set up a Confucius Institute in both areas. I think in Las Piñas and in Mindoro. There's a lot to explain about the Asian perspective, not Western, and they want to know more about China. So it's much more, I think, the same earlier, asking help to set up Confucius Institute in these areas. So yeah, marami kayong request.
Actually, setting up a Confucius Institute is not easy. Okay, so it took us 2005. China already proposed to put up a Confucius Institute in UP. 2005, after 15 years, it was set up in UP. And what we do, we have 5 Confucius Institutes in the Philippines. What Mindoro can do is to contact us, and we will help them maybe set up an adult education or other programs wherein everybody can participate. No, and we can provide them teachers. By the way, our teachers come from Xiamen University, And they are all master's degree and doctoral degree graduates. And they are not Filipino Chinese or Chinese Filipino just teaching Mandarin. No, they are degree holders of teaching Chinese as a foreign language. Now, I can help him, whoever asks that question. Please feel free to contact me and I will let you know what help can we extend to your school.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, before I move on to questions that are much more outside of the UP turf, no, I would want to also ask the question that has been gathered here. Is the Chinese language already offered in UPD as a language course? Because in UP there's a general education. In general education, you can actually get language courses for I think 18 units, if I remember.
No, our courses in Chinese Mandarin in UP are non-credit. Okay, our credit courses are in the city colleges and universities. They are compulsory courses from the CHED mandate that they have to get 6 units of a foreign language. But majority of our partners, they want Mandarin because they know that learning Mandarin will give students better future. That is why we have a clamor of a lot of,
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, this question is a bit, I know that China Confucius Institute is apolitical, but I think the question is much more asking for your personal perspective, no, not really as director of institute. The question is, Dr. Lu, what is your stand with regards to the ruling of the UNCLOS?
In my capacity as the director of Confucius Institute,
yes,
I only deal with culture, the cultural side. I don't deal with politics. When they interview me, I always say upfront, we are apolitical and we are separated from, what we do here. Our main task is to promote Chinese language and culture and tell people the real story about China and the panoramic view and the multidimensional view of China and nothing else. That's our mandate.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am, the next question that's in the chat box right now, this is from Mr. Aaron Jed Rabina po. Do CIs also teach Cantonese and Hokkien?
Yeah, we will open Hokkien soon. Yes.
So it's not yet open now, but you will have the plan, no, to open. Yes, ma'am.
That is in our long-term plan. Yeah.
Yes, po. Ma'am, this is question. I think it's from one of our friends as well, and this has something to do with your involvement in the inclusion of Mandarin language in the K-12 curriculum of the Department of Education as a special program in foreign language. The question is, why do you think it is important for our students here in the country to learn the Chinese language? What do you think are the possible opportunities this opens to our K-12 graduates? That's much more. What's the objective behind it?
Yes, we have a lot of possibilities. It will open doors to a lot of students. If they cannot pursue college, at least they have that skill that they can bring with them and they can actually work in call centers. Some of our students in the city colleges, they work in the call centers in Clark because they know they got 6 units and now they are continuing. Aside from the mandatory compulsory credit, they continue studying Mandarin because they can see the difference that Mandarin can make. If you have that special skill, actually it's a special skill for our students. It will open doors to a lot of opportunities.
Given that your last note in your answer,
yeah,
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I would like to have a follow-up question, ma'am. You've said that it opens doors to our K to 12 graduate, especially those who don't want to go to college. Ma'am,
Yes.
do you have can you cite some examples of your students or some students of the institute who actually are very much proficient in the language itself, who are actually been employed in different industries in China or do you have some examples po?
Because this is personal, I cannot mention the names.
Yes
So
po, no mention of names.
have a lot. We have a lot who are currently employed as part-time because with the money that they got from learning Mandarin, no, when they were in high school, they are now pursuing higher education and they want to continue learning Mandarin even in college because they saw the benefits that they got out of just the barely 6 units. So they are actually asking me if we can offer courses in, like for instance, in other city colleges, in the College of Business, College of Hospitality and Tourism. They have Mandarin as the foreign language component of their course, of their degree.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there's a question here in our chat box from Mr. Albert Tan. Do you support local Mandarin language center in the Philippines po?
Like, can you clarify what local centers?
Sir, ma'am, it's like local Mandarin language center. Probably, ma'am, these are not what he's referring are not really language centers that are based in the university, but there are a lot of language centers all throughout the country, which is not necessarily university based. Do you support this kind of centers po?
Since we focus on grassroots city colleges and universities as mandated by our funding agency and the government agencies, maybe we can talk, and maybe I will help them map out the programs that are possible in their center. But I cannot assure them that we can give subsidy to their classes, or we can offer a Chinese teacher. We can assign a Chinese teacher. No, I cannot assure that because our Chinese teachers are all handling classes in our partner universities.
Yes, ma'am.
Colleges and universities, and of course the government agencies.
Okay, it's already 4:22, but I'll have two more questions here that I think is really important to ask. The first one is in terms of making a difference, no, the Chinese language or Chinese language education in the country, making a difference in our tourism industry and also in the business sector. How do you think how important it is? That's much more the question.
How important is Mandarin?
Yes, in the tourism industry and even in the business sector po. Especially now that, in terms of investment, China has a lot of investment in the country. Even tourism, I think China before the pandemic has, I think, the second largest tourist in the country,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken.
I mentioned to you earlier in my talk that engaging with China is of great importance in higher education, not only in higher education, but to different sectors in the society. Because we cannot, no? As we can see, we cannot ignore China because it is one of the economic superpowers. Second, but we don't know now. Time will tell if China will overtake US. We don't know that. We are living in the VUCA world and we are living in uncertain times. Both countries are now, are both superpowers and they want to be on top. So they are making sure that they are always there. But we cannot predict the future. We are living in uncertain times with COVID around and, on top of the US-China trade war. we cannot predict. Now we have a lot of issues worldwide. We have Afghanistan, we have Haiti, we have compounded with what we are experiencing now with the COVID around. We have to map out. We have the plan, but due to uncertain times, we have to rehash our plan every now and then. Sometimes we can implement it, sometimes we can't.
I think that's one of the challenges that you mentioned earlier.
It's a big challenge, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. It's 4:25.
Restrictions also. Due to
Yes,
travel restrictions, we cannot afford to bring our students to and see China before we do that. We have China study tours and everything that was cut off because of the travel restrictions. So uncertain times is in our midst.
Yeah, I think so, ma'am. So, mom, it's 4:25. I will ask you the last question, and it's a combination of a personal one, a personal note, and actually the other one is much more about us from APCU. The first one, I think, is how do you feel being being part of the first batch of APPCU awardees? And the last question is, what are the suggestions that you can give to APCU in trying to improve our activities in promoting and of course activities and advocacy in promoting Philippine-China relations before we move on to the next part of our program?
Yeah, it is my honor. It is humbling and gratifying to be one of the first batch of APCU awardees. Now, the recognition is actually important in as much as, it is nice to be appreciated in different ways, no? With what I did I was the Confucius Institute director since 2009. And I have been a pioneer director for 2 Confucius Institutes in the Philippines. And that is something that sets me apart from other directors. And as a matter of fact, my friends from other Confucius Institute, my foreign Confucius Institute directors, they told me that this is unusual to be with the Confucius Institutes for so long. This is my 11th year, and with what you saw, I think I can say that I made a difference in the lives of so many people. Now, it was gratifying to see the comments of the students I work with and the teachers I work with. If you visit the Chinese Embassy Manila FB, it was heartwarming to see such comments and the difference I made in their lives. Even the parents commented on that. So they were, they said, oh, alleviation from poverty, ang number one reason nila. No? For APCU, I can say that, you have programs that made a lot of, maybe that actually opened the eyes of so many Filipinos. Because if you just rely on the media coverage, they are, how media works. Embellishment here, embellishment there. And then there are fake news, etc. But with the topics that you showed a while ago, the forums that you hosted are actually, very informative, very educational. I'm sure they will open, the eyes of a lot of Filipinos of what China is all about.
Thank you for that, Dr. Lourdes. Dr. Lu, I will call you Dr. Lu, no? Mas madali. On that note, you've mentioned about media. So before we go on to the closing remarks, may I actually announce the next forum, no, for the month of September, which is very much related to the last note of Dr. Lu, and that's the title of the next forum is on is the role of media and media cooperation in the promotion of Philippine-China friendship and understanding. So we'll talk about more about media and media cooperation and how it impacts Philippine-China relation. That will be on September 16, 2021, the same time. So we'll be promoting this as well. So without further ado, may I call on our APCU President, Sir Jeffrey Nang, for the closing remarks po.
APCU Chairman, Secretary Raul Albino, fellow trustees, officials, and members of APCU, to our esteemed APCU Laureates, Ambassador Francis Chua and Dr. Lourdes Nepomuceno, media friends, local and foreign friends, and colleagues, a pleasant afternoon to all. Indeed, cultural and economic diplomacy has existed since time immemorial. Explorers, travelers, traders, teachers, linguists, and artists can all be considered as informal ambassadors or cultural or economic diplomats. Any person who interacts with different cultures or is engaged in any sort of business, economic, and trade transactions facilitates a form of diplomatic exchange, which can take place in any fields like art, literature, music, finance, economy, business, trade, and beyond. For example, the establishment of regular trade routes like the Belt and Road Initiative paved the way for recurrent exchange of information, cultural gifts, and expressions between traders, economic partners, and state officials. Indeed, the Philippines and China has had a thriving cultural and economic trade relationship for more than 1,000 years. Also, the exchange of languages and even learning a language other than their own have consistently forged and improved relations between peoples and nations, even of diverging interests and differences. And it is in this light that Mandarin or Chinese language learning institutions like the Confucius Institutes become paramount and are made more important than ever, with China poised to become the biggest economy in the world within this decade. We can only laud Dr. Lourdes Nepomuceno's initiatives in engagement and utilizing the multi-sectoral approach with civil society, government, and business through academic exchanges, getting Filipinos to learn and teach Chinese in the country, Mandarin broadcasting programs, China youth tours, China study tour for UP Master of Management students to bolster Philippine-China relations. As a matter of fact, throughout history, cultural and economic diplomacy has already been widely practiced. In this day and age, with a more globalized and interconnected world, with ICT guarantees that we all have greater access to one another more than before. Cultural and economic diplomacy is indeed critical in fostering peace and stability, friendship, mutual understanding, not only between the Philippines and China, but more importantly, between Filipinos and Chinese. For this is the mission of APCU. On this note, on behalf of APCU, I would like to congratulate and extend my sincere gratitude to two of our APCU laureates, our Economic Ambassador, Francis Chua, and Education and Cultural Ambassador, Dr. Lourdes Nepomuceno, for sharing their ideas, plans, vision, experience, and accomplishments this afternoon with all of us. Let me express as well my gratitude to all who have joined and participated in this APCU forum this afternoon. I hope you've all learned something. Indeed, your presence and dynamic participation have made this forum a fruitful endeavor. Again, thank you to every one of you. Let us all be cultural, and economic diplomats in our respective ways. A pleasant day to all of you, and see you in the next APCU forum with 2 more APCU awardees, Herman Laurel and Adolfo Pagdinawan, this September 16, 2021. Same time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Sir Jeff. To everyone who attended the forum, maraming salamat po. Thank you very much. We appreciate and we hope to see you po in the next APCO forum that will be on September 16 po. And we'll have 2 more of our laureates who will be presenting here. Maraming salamat. Have a good day. Stay safe po tayo sa COVID-19.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lu. Thank you, Ambassador Francis Chua. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Thank you,
Congratulations, Dr. Lu.
Congratulations.
Congratulations po.
Francis Chua, Ambassador Francis Chua. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you?
Hi.
President Jeff. Vice Chair Anna.
Congratulations, no?
No.
And thank you, Anna, for your
Welcome
hard work.
po.
No problem po. Yes po. Sir, meron pong pumasok. Hindi na, wag nang i-admit. Na.
Right.
Sige po, ako po yung last kasi ako po yung
attending.
moderator. I'll wait for
Okay,
everyone
sige.
to leave po.
I'll leave na.
Thank you, Dr. Lu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes po. Thank you, Sir Jeff. Thank you po sa board,
Thank you,
sa
Ana.
APCO. Welcome po.